If you've ever been in the city, dreaming of a life on a little bit of land with maybe some animals and a garden and the people you love most, hi, we're just like you. Some might be tempted to tell the bountiful harvest story and leave out what I'm about to share, but they'd be doing you a disservice if they gloss over the challenges of Central Texas summers. It's a tale about months of consecutive triple-digit temps, how a rainless summer has affected our animals and our garden, and how we keep our sanity when the sun beats down and all we see is scorched earth. Welcome to our 7-acre homestead tour, Drylands Edition. This is our house. We downsized from 2,000 square feet with our 4 kids to an 800 square foot shed that we converted into a home. The shed to house is definitely the heart of our homestead. In permaculture terms, this is our Zone Zero. Permaculture is the idea that things in an ecosystem work together, mutually benefiting one another where nothing is wasted, effort, or matter. After months of watching our property, how the rain lands and runs, the position of the sun, and even where the wind blows, we broke ground. Our home is intentional, oriented with a back porch facing due south, so that when the time comes, we can maximize the roof space and have enough roof-mounted solar panels to power 80% of our electric needs. We have a proposal for 22 panels that would cost around $17,500 without batteries. And with it, we would break even in under 9 years. That is no cheap ticket. It's not the worst, but it's not the best. So in homesteading, the list is ever growing. Independent energy for us is on that list, it's just lower than some of the other priorities. Another design of our home that does lead toward independence is our massive roof. Every year we are catching tens of thousands of gallons of water. We have full videos touring the rainwater harvesting system, but after this summer, we think larger tanks are integral. At least another 5,000 gallons of water storage collected in our rainy months would do well to carry us through these grueling summer droughts. Zone 1. Think of this as everything outside the house. In a neighborhood, this might be your front and backyards. We have a 375-gallon slimline tank that collects rainwater from the front porch. We use this to water our animals and, to be honest, the kids' outdoor kitchen and salad shop. We have plans for a small kitchen garden in this area, and we had a great season with these Vigo garden beds. Then the chickens who love to scratch and cows with a hankering for peppers showed us that a second garden location was biting off more than we could chew. I'm sure you're thinking a fence here would make all the difference, and you'd be right. But again, priorities, friends. Something I love about the principle of permaculture zones is that they really do show you where your priorities lie. The more time you spend in a place, the more you see a thing, the more attention it'll get, and the greater thriving you'll see in the end. This is why our summer season taught us to bring all the most important things to us into Zone 1 so that we could give them the best care and still love our homestead when we have spent months in 105-degree days in a row. Failure and wisdom were helpful teachers to us in July of 2020 when we raised 4 dozen meat birds. And if you know anything about July in Central Texas, this was folly from the start. They were dropping from the heat, and we made our job infinitely more difficult by tractoring these chickens each day on rugged terrain with loads of direct sun. It's fair to say that since then, we've smartened up and brought pigs and cows and laying hens nearby the house to cohabitate from June through September. This has helped us approach chores much more cheerfully, and we've been able to keep a keen eye on all the animals. Missy, our sow, birthed 5 pigs at the beginning of the summer, and we kept them in shade and deep bedding and well watered with a sprinkler on a timer. Misters would be a great option, but also an expense, and honestly, I'm so proud of this little don't have what you need, use what you got solution. Another mama on our 7 acres this summer is Goldie. I've got mixed feelings about this one. She's pregnant, and when we AI'd this gal, we purposefully timed it so that she would calf in September after the summer months had passed. At least that's what we expected. But 3 months of no rain, coupled with 2 months of extreme heat, has left no blade of grass and no accessible forage for her.
Girl, you're big.
She is due quite literally any day now. I like the 4-legged farm animals, but must give credit where it's due, and I'll say these chickens deserve it all. For 4 months, these freeloading birds were eating and not laying. Daily, we tractored them and set up the fence and took down the fence and moved them and fed them, and in return, got nothing. but grumbles from the chores we all hated. In spring, we realized they're just a merit badge, a symbol that we could do this homestead thing. But in reality, I could go next door and pay my neighbor for fantastic eggs with none of the work. I dreamed about just letting our laying hens loose, and Lord lead 'em. So we did. We opened up the poultry netting and let the girls free range around the house because we were just not that into chickens. Lo and behold, within a week, we were getting 18 eggs a day. Not one has been picked up by predators. They roost in their chickshaw at night. They scratch through the manure that isn't mucked. It's as if they heard our intention and decided to step up their game. These girls have committed as free rangers. The downside? Free-range chickens. I fully expected them to wander off and roost in the trees and maybe even become some bobcat's meal. But instead, they're everywhere, thriving and pooping. Poop on the front porch, poop on the back porch, poop in the stinking outdoor shower. Entitled hens on top of our black stone if I forget to put on the cover.
Chicken, get out of here! Go!
And letting the chickens be chickens is just lovely. But be not fooled by your favorite farmhouse chic Instagrammer. They too are cleaning up poo like the rest of us. I am ready for the summer to cease and get these girls back in a run. Zone 2 is all about growing things. This is our 2,000 square foot garden. In light of our 7 acres, this is modest. This garden is guarded by a simple welded wire fence with all those free-ranging dogs and kids and chickens. Believe me, it needs a fence for anything to be successful. You'll see another 375-gallon slimline tank that we have to manually fill up, but it's fantastic for gravity-fed drip irrigation during the fall and winter seasons. We spent the last growing season focused on fodder trees with a few herbs and annuals. The drip irrigation makes all the difference. A garden renovation is coming soon to give us more order here, and the plans are to use more Vigo garden beds and these salvaged beds that will line the perimeter of the fence. These are made from boards rescued from old projects or discounted lumber from the culled section at your big box store. Comfrey and Ruellia are perennials that can't stop, won't stop in these small beds, and the fodder trees are in tubs. They've proven that they'll stand the test of summer. Zones 3 and 4 can get kind of blurry at this stage of our homestead build. We imagine this place to be a starter homestead for us, possibly moving to a bigger space in the future. But property prices are rising even in our area, and we need to build with long-term vision in mind in case that just doesn't happen. So why does it get blurry? It's shaped like a football field. Short side to side, but long. So the zones are kind of wonky too. We had a tidy and orderly plan on paper before we ever got to work. In fact, before we ever even moved here. But working plans don't always pan out in real life. It just makes sense for this to be grazing paddocks. And we would only know that because of the amount of time we spent just watching. It's quite the effort to maintain rainwater on our property. It wants to run off, so pocket ponds will be a big win by this time next summer. Our septic field technically would fall into this zone. It's close to our house, but according to this principle, since we rarely pay attention to it, this space is working all on its own. The septic gives passive watering and nutrients through the field, and with shade, we even see green here throughout summer months. The pig paddocks are an upcoming fall project. The forest has been a godsend for these pigs during hot months. This canopy gives shade, and there's so much vegetation that they have plenty to eat on the forest floor. We want to ensure the forest has downtime in between rotations. Using the back half of our property, we're creating 13 paddocks in which Mama and her calf will rotate. They're going to love it. And the ruminants will not only be happy, they'll help to bring new life to a literal dry and weary land. These cracks are deep. In some spots, a yardstick can get lost. We need to retain water here and build up new topsoil. So forethought has helped us out. Our first installation on the entire property was in 2018 when we trenched and laid a water line. Nothing felt as good as that first geyser. So happy! The plan was always to tee off that original setup and run water to the back, allowing us to rotate the animals and have water there year-round. We waited on this project simply because of cost and necessity. Instead of running hoses hundreds of yards, we will simply turn on a spigot and save a lot of time and energy. If you've been here a while, you'll remember when we dug a huge pond just next to those paddocks. It's been less than a year, and although it filled to the brim with rainwater just a few months ago, seeing more and more of the pond basin is a mega bummer, dude. Nearly 6 feet below the waterline, this has been a lesson on the effects of drought and evaporation right before our very eyes. The good news is that we haven't seen one floating fish, so all the minnows and the bluegills are staying cool in the deepest part of the pond, and this is the exact reason for its design, to withstand our summers. So even though we aren't cooling off here this season, our fish are healthy and escaping the heat. This summer heat has resulted in the pond falling to Zone 3 and Zone 4. But in better weather, we're here all the time. The kids go fishing in the mornings, we take evening walks, and nature journal back here. Zone 5 is usually where you leave it wild, untouched nature. Wild blackberries grow, the brush is thick, the trees are in competition for survival of the fittest, and seasonal birds migrate and stop off for a rest. The wild, to me, is exciting. You'll see that a lot of our property is this wild Zone 5. On a bad day, it's really tempting to think that that means we're not doing enough. We are so far from that plan on paper. And yet, when I look back at how far we've come, I see order. I see harmony in nature. I see the lessons learned over trial and error. The pigs will be in part of this space one day, and so will the cows. In fact, some of this will be transformed this very fall. I think that even the trees are begging for a fresh season. The leaves have begun to fall from our oaks, and the wind will catch them and remind us that this will indeed end. The rains will come and the pond will fill. Goldie's gonna calf, and they will play a part in stewarding this land alongside of us. The pigs are going to grow, and they will love being in the forest. They're gonna fill our freezer and help feed our family and our community. As the sun always rises and sets, the heat will break, and we can certainly count on that. I never want to be found in the winter wishing away the gray days. And so, even in the middle of this drought, with no hope of rain to cling to, we keep on our mission. We are here to return to the land, to learn from it, to gain lost skills and sharpen them to benefit our growing family. We know we don't know it all. And we just put one foot in front of the other, trusting that God, in His faithfulness, hasn't left us in a dry and weary land for nothing.
Yo!